Welcome to Watchbox Studios. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
And to a very special episode of The Classroom. This is actually the season finale, and we're doing it live. Thank you guys for joining us so much. I'm here by my fellow super awesome co-hosts. We got Mr. Mike Michaels to the left, and we got Mr. John Callahan to the right. You want to tell them a quick few things?
Yeah. We talked about this on our last live show, on a Watch Science show, which we actually brought a little. We're going to do a little Watch Science tonight too.
Yeah.
But we talked about this. There's a whole tie-in between the table here, not just doing the show, but actually, Sequan, you're the reason I'm here. Because we met 10 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like 2-3 years ago, but we met about 10 years ago now in St. Thomas and Caribbean. When I first started selling watches, Mike Michaels was our
lead watchmaker.
Yeah. We had a couple other watchmakers. He was our head watchmaker guy. He was every Breitling that went wrong. I went crying to Mike. I had so many stories I could think of. But we developed a really awesome relationship, and he kind of opened up the world to watchmaking. And I think you two have a cool little connection as well.
You always wanted to be a watchmaker.
Yeah,
and
100%.
you spent so much time. You come across the street because you were in the store across the street, and you come over and spend so much time, in the shop.
Well.
Then the other tie-in is that I'm originally from Cleveland. And I met John, 10 years ago, in Cleveland, working at different stores.
Yeah.
And so when we all came together here, that's when I walked in the first day and I looked and you're like, "What are you doing here?" You're like, "What are you doing here?" And it was just so funny. But this is how we all ended up here. So it's kind of like a full circle, small world kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the world of watches, we all can agree, is such a super small world. Whether it's on the side of you being working in the industry, watchmaker, salesperson, or even as a collector, or even brand managers or reps. So you meet the same people. It's one of those things where you meet somebody and 10 years down the line, you've seen somebody at a watch show, you say, "Oh, I know you from somewhere," and it's so funny how the connections just rekindle.
And I'll jump on this. I met Mike at one of our stores when I was working in Cleveland, and we met then. And then we took on Patrick Hoffman, who was the former CEO of Ulysse Nardin. I've known Patrick Hoffman since I was 15 years old.
Yeah,
He
you told me
was the
that story.
very first person I ever met in the industry that was an executive.
And that's what bit you.
Yeah, I mean, it was Ulysse Nardin. It was, working in that environment. It was crazy. And so when I was like blown away that now we're essentially colleagues, it was great.
Yeah,
I mean, the time is such a small
and
world.
he's hanging out too. And Patrick Hoffman, who's like a visionary of sorts on the JCB, Jean-Claude Biver type level, and took a brand like Ulysse where, a lot of people on the outside looking in, you really don't understand Ulysse, but what, he was able to do, especially open up the European markets like Russia, and gave Ulysse that two-edged sword of nice, under 10,000, but extraordinary automatons and pieces over 100 grand as well. It was just really special to see that type of thing go on. So it's a small world in this watch, in this watch world.
It is. When you talk about a small world too, we have to all be careful too, because we all have name recognition. And that's the other thing. It's when we talk about a small world like that, it goes around. And I can go to Texas to train in Texas, or I can go over here, and everybody knows who I am.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. People know who you are.
Yeah.
They see JON. They know it's you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. CQ, you've been all over the place.
Oh yeah, exactly. And one thing I always tell clients is like, all we have is our name. So at the end of the day, sometimes they think, that we're trying to get them on a price, we're trying to buy from them, or we're trying to sell them something. They think we're trying to gouge them. And I say, hey, there's only one CQ in the watch world, And like, no matter where I go, I have to take that name, Show me the other guy. So it's like, I'm not here to screw you over or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, if you go on the forums or on YouTube and say CQ did me dirty, that lives with me forever. So it kind of keeps us all, honest in the game as well.
Exactly.
That's right. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I think we had a really fun time with the Classroom series. I think maybe a month ago is when we started. Maybe a little bit, 6 weeks ago, we started planning it, and it's just been so awesome. All the shows, the production quality has been amazing.
Yeah.
The viewership has been really, really awesome. You guys really showed us a lot of love, a lot of interaction as well. How do you guys feel about last season?
Well, I mean, listen, you guys had a show. You guys been on. It was the first time for me.
Yeah.
I thoroughly had as much fun doing a project. This was up there with anything I've ever done. I really enjoyed it. Excited for season 2.
Season 2's gonna be fun.
And I think what we were trying to do, I think we did a good job. And got to give kudos to the production team.
They did a great job.
Marketing team, they did an awesome job. I think, I'll speak for myself, self-conscious, watching my own videos, but production quality, outstanding. Like they killed it and made us look great on camera. Right?
I agree. I was only doing live shows before, and then to do this, when it comes to proofing the stuff, I have a hard time listening to myself, watching myself. I don't like it. Everybody behind me knows that, but I do it, and then when I finally watch it, and when the thing comes out live again, and I see all the graphics put on, I thought that's why you're not doing a live show. Because you can't use the graphics in the live. It's got to be still photos, stuff like that. We did a lot of fun stuff, but this gives us the avenue to really expand what we were doing before. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that too. Season 1 was great. We touched on a lot of subjects, but we didn't get as deep in them as we wanted to, and that's why Season 2 we're really going to be able to, knock the door down.
I think that was the biggest criticism that we and viewers had, is that they wanted us to get a little bit deeper, but we wanted kind of just to test out the format and see like how long will somebody, because we wanted this, we already do so much great content, big 30, 45-minute pieces. We want to see what a smaller little piece. And, for somebody who's like, had a lot of guys who are like in the airport or in between work or waiting transit, you put on a quick 5-6 minute video, and we just kind of packed a lot of information. I think Season 2 will definitely stretch that out a little bit more. Right. Any particular points you think we can improve on?
Well, I think it's also important to note that what we were our goal was to get people who maybe aren't experts at watches that are just starting to get into it. And there's a lot of people that
have questions.
They have questions. They want to know basic stuff. And a lot of our content is for people who know quite a bit about watches. And that's totally cool, because we've got customers all over the world that know a lot, know more than us. A lot of them know more than us. But there are people who just have basic questions that want to get introduced to it. And I think hopefully we did a good job. And I think Season 2 we're just going to pound away. And really
I think so. We're going to take a lot of the comments that came off of the feedback that we got. At the end of it, and I tried to respond to a lot of the feedback. I know everybody else did as well, and gave us ideas and avenues to take. For Season 2. Where these guys they're going to put everything together, but we know what people are looking for. This was a short a short opening to what's to come. And
I think we definitely proved the concept. That's for sure.
Absolutely. The other good thing about it too is you talked about the collectors that don't know who to ask, and a lot of times if you walk into a boutique or something like that, all you have are salespeople.
Right.
You don't have that person could be selling watches today. They could be selling jewelry in the afternoon.
Right.
They're not
100%.
watch aficionados. They don't, and so you ask them a question, they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
In this way, at least we're talking to everybody. We're telling them what they want to hear, but we're telling them what we know. And we're trying to answer their questions. So it's a little different, that way, because we're not physically trying to, just get that sale. We're trying to an educated customer.
And you can't do, and a lot of this is about cultivating relationships and being a trusted source of what we're doing. And you can't do that by always telling somebody something that just makes the sale. You want to really guide them into collecting. Like our titles are like client advisors, right? Client advisors.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do, is literally advise you. Like there's nothing I like more on the sales side than helping somebody put together a killer collection. It doesn't, and I'm not talking, doesn't have to be the rarest, hardest watches in the world to get. I'm talking about just getting watches that you love, watches that you want to own for the rest of your life, or at some point, you realize, hey, my watch it's worth something now, and at some point I could trade it in or whatever. And so I think that educational process, Season 1, Season 2, Season 3,
that is the fun for sure. Helping that collector get into it, and not everybody knows anything. We do have collectors who know so much, you talk to him as like, I think you could stump Tim Monso. I don't know, but I want to set that up too. We gotta do like a versus Tim episode. What was your favorite episode or moment from Season 1?
So for me, I really was into what Mike was doing. I thought I'm because from the tech side, so from the sales side, we get a lot of the questions that you answer, right? Whether it's water resistancy, whether it's chronographs, movement, important things that having somebody who actually works on the watches and does it consistently and does it at a high level there's no better like resource than that. Like I can tell people about Lamani movements and EBOShes and everything and COSC certifications, but if I'm telling you that, it may not hold as much water as if somebody who's an actual certified top level watchmaker that can actually bring the goods. And so that's what I thought that was great.
I appreciate that. You know, and I enjoyed listening to you guys because, like I said, I can't listen to myself. You know, so I can't. I'll put it on in the background. I have a hard time watching it when I look back and I see the graphics pop over. That's pretty cool. You know, I'm watching those, not listening to me, but listening to you guys. You know, John, your voice, you know, just comes across.
Silky smooth, man.
You know, and talking about that, you were dying the day you made the videos.
Yeah, so I was dying. Won't get into that too much, but I was in a rough spot at the time. We were videotaping, but we made it through, and you know, I was happy with the product, and so that was fun.
Good. If we're not here anymore, we've gone to California to make sure John becomes a success. Me and Michael manage. If we're not here anymore, that's where we went. You know, to start the career there. I think all the episodes are pretty. They're all really great. You know, just the content. I think we cover such a great variety of topics too. That if you were an entry collector or even intermediate collector or even advanced, there's something to find from every little episode and something fun you didn't know, and the graphics are cool. And I think we picked topics that were not covered as much as you think they would be. Maybe in print format somewhere, but a lot of things, Rolex versus Omega rivalry, you know, independent watchmakers, just things that are talked about maybe at the higher levels in certain rooms, but not in a accessible way that we were able to do it this time. So I think that was really cool.
We talk about the independent. That's one thing that we really want to expand on next year. Both, you know, myself and everybody else, I think, wants to actually touch on that too, is expand on the independence.
Yeah, I love independent watchmakers. You guys know me. I mean, I love independent watchmakers. I basically cut my teeth on independent watchmakers. So, you know, it's going to be exciting, and hopefully we'll get good feedback and customers who want to know about those brands and who might not have access to them regularly.
That's what I like too, was seeing the feedback and actually seeing. Well, you didn't mention. You didn't mention, you know, Roger Smith. You didn't mention. You know, you mentioned Philip DeFore. You know, and it was kind of funny because I did put a little tag on that one, where I was in Valley de Joux 6 years ago now, and I actually went up to Philip DeFore's door and I knocked on his door, and his home is right there on the lake, and it's right in the Mecca of watchmaking on the opposite side of JLC and the opposite side of the lake. And I walked up to his door and everybody looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm here. You know, I don't know if I'm going to be back here."
You got to take a shot.
You know, it's probably the best watchmaker, you know, living watchmaker in the world. And I knocked on his door. He wasn't home, and I wouldn't have been able to understand him anyway because I don't speak French.
He probably doesn't speak.
He doesn't speak English.
You saw the love in your eyes, and exactly. The connection would have been made.
My one regret though is there was a plaque on the side of the door that said Philippe DeFore, you know, horologist. I wish I would have taken a picture, a little selfie, you know, next to that.
Yeah, that'd have been awesome.
It was actually pretty cool though. So I definitely want to talk about that, you know, next season and touch on stuff like that.
For sure. So I have a very interesting segment coming up. So we actually, you know, when you film any great series, there's a lot of bloopers. So we actually have a blooper reel that none of us has seen, and
I've heard
so we're gonna roll it right now for you, and I think I'm gonna be most of it, but let's see what happens. So let's roll the bloopers and let's have some laughs. Hey everybody, it's CQ the Watch Guy here again today, and today, blah, 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 blah.
Those are the four most important points. Those are the four most important points.
Where they were looking, I think how to word that.
Another great example of split blah, 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 blah. Actually invented a keyless crown in this is probably one of being right Mission Impossible.
You're right.
Or they will take traditional. They'll take traditional components. They'll take traditional materials.
So again, if I was spending $1.99 on a burger, I don't expect, you know, to get Kobe beef from Japan. But if I want to spend $200, you know, I expect to really know where blah blah blah. Don't expect it to be Kobe beef raised in Japan, you know, fed bare and their bellies rubbed every day. But if I'm paying a couple $100 for a burger, I expect my beef to be well massaged. If that makes sense. Everybody in the room was laughing at this. Someone like that, like this. You gotta keep that clip.
We run the risk of allowing moisture to impregnate the watch. We'll edit that out. We'll stay away from just the tip comments, too.
I'm CQ.
No, I'm CQ and that's thing.
So I'm CQ. That was.
I'm CQ.
Oh, I'm CQ. Yeah. And that. Oh, I didn't even. Not the and.
That
wasn't too bad. That was
good.
We had some fun shooting. You know, I just want to let you know there's a whole room full of camera guys who's breaking out laughing as well. And next season we'll get bloopers on them, and we'll even it out a little bit. But I think that wasn't as bad as I thought.
One thing I think that points out is this was totally unscripted.
Yes.
You know, we sat down and we just talked. You know, we talked, you know, to the camera.
Right.
And it was put together. You know? So that we weren't reading off scripts or anything. You know, because we were flowing with it.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but I was literally in the hospital 10 hours before.
The fact that John even
shoot this, so I didn't have time to do.
Me and John were pod mates. I was like, "Are you still gonna go in?" I haven't seen John in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I did it.
It was
You're
rough.
a trooper. You're a trooper. You made it happen.
Listen, I mean, if just to give again credit to people behind the scenes. They put a lot of time and effort into this. So I did not want to leave them obviously hanging. So, you know.
All right. So next we have a couple questions that we pointed out from some of the shows, and John's first. And I think this was in one of your material episodes.
Yep.
From Venus Z, were all Rolexes after 1985 made of 904L steel, or just certain ones?
That is a very good question. The answer is it was the material was actually developed in 1985. It really wasn't until 1988 that it was used. It was actually not regularly used until 2002, 2003. They were still using 316L. But the first model that, as far as I know, and anybody who wants to chime in, they can certainly give us some feedback. Yeah, but I believe it was one of the Sea Dwellers at the time was using the 904 steel. And maybe I don't even if you know. Yeah,
I remember the old steel.
Yep.
I remember seeing it pitted. You know, and we actually saw cases with leaks. Wow. Coming through the case.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, between the lugs or between the bracelet. And the first time we saw that, it was just the most amazing thing. But
wow,
with a new steel.
Yeah, and so by 2002, 2003, they basically everything in steel had been 904 at that point. So that's a good question. That's
something I didn't think about. We were in the cars. I wasn't sure exactly when, because a lot of people don't realize is manufacturers make a lot of cases sometimes.
Right.
Certain brands they make a bunch of cases. Don't use that one case until 2-3 years down the line, even though they made this new material.
Yeah.
So it's hard sometimes with certain brands to pinpoint exactly when was that line when they switched over to something else.
Right. And not everybody has records of those things either. I mean, the invention might be there, but they may not always keep. But Rolex keeps. I mean, they keep the best.
I think that's one of the not notorious. That's one of the things a lot of collectors don't know is a lot of these brands really did not. Some of them did pay attention, like Rolex, Patek. There's a few others I'm not thinking about who had everything in a ledger.
They have back from Patek has it back to day one. And I've been in the archives there, and they have you can pull up any watch. We pulled archive records for customers, and they have the record of who the watchmaker was that assembled the watch at final assembly.
Right.
Back in 1903.
Yeah,
it's so cool. Is to see those records all written out in calligraphy.
Exactly, and beautiful.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is usually, and this is just my experience for the last decade or so doing this, is that the brands that tend to have tough times figuring out kind of the historical side are the ones that were like rebranded or brought back. I mean, you see.
A lot of that had a fire.
There's a lot of stuff like that, like Vacheron and some of the things like the overseas case and the design. Who did it? Who didn't? I mean, there were rumors Joe Genta had done it, and there's records like that they basically Richemont had to go back and go, what happened? With these, that kind of-
And at some point they say we don't know,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, and they
because
just-
they don't,
yeah.
because they
Right.
just don't have the records. They bought the company,
Yeah.
but those records,
Exactly.
a decade of
May not
records are
have-
Could
gone
be
or
in
something.
some guy's tool closet
Yeah.
somewhere. You know,
Sure.
We talked
knows?
about Panerai with that, you know, how they did that when they would have a bunch of old watches and they would rebrand them. They changed the dials on them to make not the Sly Tech, but the
Darn it.
what model was it? You know,
This is what we needed Tim
Yes,
right now.
yes.
Tim would have saved us.
yeah.
But
But again, this is unscripted.
yeah, exactly. What's cool with Panerai though is there's so many like Panerai historians
Yeah.
who like
They
figured
can
out
figure out.
when the fire happened. 50 dials went this way,
Yeah.
some undated papers from that era went this way. So it's kind of fun, honestly, if you're really into history and watches that, you know, certain brands that you can really dig, and the deeper you dig, there's some guys who just live in Italy who just know this guy and this older guy who worked at the factory.
That's how you find
and
out.
kind of connect all the dots. It's
That's so
pretty
cool.
it-
Super cool.
It's half the fun, that's for sure. So next question was from me on my Patek video. Salvador Kozarev, could you touch on Patek's innovation of the annual calendar? This was a very important point that I did kind of overlook on that on my Pivotal Points of Patek Philippe video. So in 1996, Patek came out with the annual calendar. Which kind of revolutionized, you know, the calendars in opinion. Perpetuals did exist since 17, blah, 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 in clocks, but the annual was something you set once a year versus, you know, once every 4 years. So it wasn't as complicated, but it was still very, very useful.
Yep.
And price-wise, half, you know, of what a perpetual was. So you can get into an annual calendar, you could get into a nice high complication of sorts without spending all that scratch and get something very nice. Some of my favorite watches. My first Patek I ever sold was a 5146G annual calendar. So annual calendars do always hold a special place in my heart for sure. And I think people don't think about the annual calendar too much, but it's one of the most useful functions. You know, sometimes you don't need the perpetual, you don't need the leap year.
Right.
Just that once a year adjustment is kind of pretty useful and convenient.
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, there aren't many companies that are doing annual calendars. There's only a handful, and I'm not keeping track of how many are doing it now, but I can only think of 3 or 4 that are still manufacturing an annual calendar. Of course, I could be wrong on that number, but yeah, I mean, it's not a widely used complication.
That's a good point. You see more perpetual calendars, you know,
Way
now than you see annual calendars.
Yep.
And when you say annual calendar, it's a 365-day calendar.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference where it doesn't add that leap year. It doesn't count the years.
And that adjustment has to be made at the end of February.
Yeah, much
and
further.
just for those who may not know the perpetual calendar, annual calendar thing, perpetual calendar's calendar year, Gregorian calendar, 4-year calendar, understands leap year, and then recognizes that. And really, the only adjustment that'll need to be made is going to be 2100. Is when you have to go back to Switzerland to get. I like it when they send the watch companies send the disc in.
IWC.
IWC sends it in the
They send the
box.
disc
right,
in, for 200
When
years
it
later.
comes,
Right, 200 years later, so you can
Disc.
hang on to that when you go to, trade the watch in or you're ready.
And
to
people
get
work for
service.
that.
Yeah, they do,
People
of
ask
course.
it, they work for
Yeah,
that.
right. It's crazy.
100%.
Yep.
I'm read from Mike, got a pretty cool one. I'm not gonna attempt that name there. Can you tell us what water resistant exactly means? For example, can we swim with a 50 meter resistant AP or Patek, or should we only be washing our hands with them? Question.
Water resistance is a very important thing. We're actually doing a little test right here. We brought a little watch science here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to do a
All
little
right.
test while I'm talking. We'll do it right at the end of it. I'm actually heating a watch up to 50 degrees, and we're going to Celsius. So not, we're going to make a watch fog up, because I mentioned that in water resistance, where we can actually make pretty much any watch fog up. And I'm going to see if we can do this one tonight. We'll see if we can do it live.
Ooh, that's
But
cool.
my baseline is, if you have a leather strap on a watch, don't go in the water with it. Yes, it's water resistant. It's not a waterproof watch. You probably shouldn't be in the water with it. Especially you shouldn't be in the salt water with it. It's gonna destroy the strap. There are brands that make them, Hublot, stuff like that with the rubber backed and all that, and any kind of composite. And that's different. But for the most part, I don't like unless it's a dive watch that's been certified, that's been tested annually. We talked about that too, changing the gaskets annually. I wouldn't risk my life with it. But at the same time, you talk about going swimming and washing hands. We see a big problem with people going in a shower.
Yeah.
Because water comes out of the shower at a very, very high pressure, and it's something you don't think of. And water comes out of there so fast, if there's any kind of gap, anything, it's going to find it.
Find its way
And
through.
so it's going to find its way into that watch. And what happens when you have that, and we're going to try this right now, and the way I know this watch is going to be water resistant is you heat the watch up, and then I'm going to actually put some water on it, just a couple drops of water, and if it weren't water resistant or there was any moisture in the watch, it would fog up. However, when we heat the watch back up again, I'm going to go ahead and put an ice cube on top of it, and we're going to actually watch this watch fog up. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to make it fog up here. And even though this watch is water resistant, we're going to get a little bit of condensation on here. And then the whole key with it is how long does the condensation last? And I know in the video, that was one of the little typos that I caught, where I said if it's gone within 1 hour, it's actually 1 minute.
Oh, really?
You're allowed 1 minute to make it go away. And there's our condensation. And if you can get that, Harrison, let me see if I can.
Yep, there you go.
There's the condensation right in the middle. And that's done by an ice cube. And what's caused by that is temperature change. And you can actually see it going away. And if I get a little wipe just to get the moisture off there, it's going to go away within a minute. But that's a temperature change from 50 degrees Celsius to below freezing.
Yeah.
And it's temperature changes that cause watches to fog up like that. So that is going away. It will be gone in a minute. You can make any watch do that. We could take your watch off your wrist, brand new watch, put it on there, put an ice cube on it, it's going to freeze. What that means is don't go in a hot tub. Because you come out of the hot tub, your watch is going to fog up. It's temperature changes, drastic temperature changes. If you're in a hot building and you walk outside into a freezing temperature, don't be surprised if your watch freezes. That doesn't mean there's any moisture inside of it. It's a temperature change. That's going to cause.
So what about like steam? And I think the other thing, because like showers, it's the pressure. Okay, so I've always told people like, first off, I would highly advise not taking your water in the shower anyway. But you know, some people do. I tell my customers don't do that.
Yeah.
And then what about like, because the one thing that watch companies they don't always do like depth rate, actually pressure ratings, like bars and atmospheres. Rather than meters, because that confuses people. I think like 10 meters. Well, that's like 30 feet.
Exactly. You feel like
what you really want to tell them is how much pressure the watch can withstand.
Exactly. And you talk about 30 meters is 3 bars.
Right.
So it's not a very high level. It doesn't sound like a high level, and that's the pressure that we actually test the watches under. And I know we touched on this with the whole water resistance, waterproof thing, but an actual dive watch is actually tested at usually 125%. It's rated depth.
Oh, wow.
So it's tested above and beyond, plus the rated time.
Yep.
And it's the rated time that you actually have an oxygen tank and can go under. So, again, that's a whole different classification. It's an ISO standard that for a dive watch.
Yes, to get the ISO standards on the dive watch.
So quick question for Rich Buddy. Can you take a GMT or sub into a sauna? What do you feel about saunas?
I don't like them. Again, you have a temperature change. You have a drastic temperature change.
That's a big temperature change.
You're not, you have a huge temperature change when you get back out of there. If your watch fogs up, again, if it's gone in a minute, you're fine. My main thing, and I try to push this, is maintain your watch. Send your watch back in every couple of years for a maintenance service, and that's changing all the gaskets.
And
gaskets and lubricants.
Just to change the gasket? Let's say everything is perfect.
If you want to change all the gaskets, I don't know what Rolex charges offhand. I know full service is about $550, so I'm going to assume a maintenance service is probably in the $300 range, and that's with all the rated specifications. It's going to come back to watches water resistant.
Definitely. So it's definitely worth it. And even Breitling.
You're protecting the watch. You're protecting the movement of the watch.
You never know. It's better to spend a couple $100, get your gasket swapped out, than take a chance swimming. You're thinking everything's okay, and then you see it fog up, and then a minute passes, and then you're like,
as long as it's gone in a minute. If Harrison, you could show that real quick.
Yeah, look at that.
This one is gone.
And I'll just jump in there. Like service these maintenance services.
Gone. So
yeah, the maintenance services are great, and we would advise customers to do that. I will chime in and say that a lot of times, and I've sent watches in certainly for maintenance service customers. Don't be surprised if you get an overhaul estimate
you get a hefty
back.
bill,
Yeah,
right.
you're going to get it. I mean, a lot of times I end up getting the estimates back where they're giving a full service to the watch.
Yeah.
So I would. If you're going to use it the way it's designed, a dive watch to dive with and go in the water and submerge it, do your due diligence, take care of the watch. But you're going to get, you're going to pay the bills. It's worth paying the bill.
Would I dive with a Patek on my wrist? Probably not.
Right.
Because my biggest fear would be I'd lose it.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the most important thing. Once you're in the
my
water,
We both know many people
Yes.
who swam,
yeah.
strapped something,
We
flips up, they got
I don't know if
scared.
you remember the story. We were in
Doug
St. Thomas.
Young,
Doug
yes,
Young.
sir.
Doug
Yes,
Young.
sir.
Yeah, a customer lost a Breitling. I think it was a Super Ocean.
Over at a hotel, yep.
Yeah, he was snorkeling, and he told one of our sales reps, Doug Young, where it was, and he went over there. And 2 days later, Doug comes walking in, and he has the watch, and he went snorkeling and found it. And brought it back in. It was sitting in the bottom, who knows, probably like 10 feet or something like that. But it was sitting there for a couple days.
Wow.
But he sent that watch back to him.
Yeah, but the client was literally like, I'm swimming out. It was like the Marriott, and he kind of described it, and Doug just was listening. And Doug is a
He
guy
was in the
who,
water all the time.
Yes, he paddle boards every day. He ties up the cruise ship. He managed the store in the middle of the day. But he found it.
He found it.
Even Josh Thanos' watch, his Panerai was
Same thing.
left at the bottom of the ocean for months.
Yep.
Like when you look at the pictures of how that was and how it came back, amazing, amazing.
Before and after, and that watch is amazing too.
But you gotta be careful because he did pay quite a penny
Yes,
to get it.
that's gonna happen.
Half the value of the watch.
Oh yeah,
Right.
100%.
Yeah. Thousands. Mhm.
Right.
He paid a good one. Quick question before we move on. High Rising asking, what about sun resistance?
Sun, actually, I touched on this in the water resistance, when we talked about gaskets and everything. The biggest problem on a watch that we see is, and this is on regular service, and again, if Harrison can get in here, the crystal itself is held in by a gasket, and it's a nylon gasket that goes around the crystal, and it's actually friction fit. So the crystal's pressed in, and it's compressed, has a nylon gasket around it. However, because the crystal's clear, this gasket, you can't see it in here, but it's actually, you can see the top edge if you get in here with a loop. And it actually dries out. And so when you take the crystals out, that's why we replace these gaskets all the time. You take that crystal out, you'll see little fine cracks in it. And so that's the first gasket I see go on a watch, is the crystal gasket.
Right.
The other gaskets you have the crown gasket. You do have a gasket inside the crown, or in the case tube, depending on the model. And that's the other one that will go. On a manual wine watch, if you have an automatic, a lot of times you don't even open it up. But yeah, the crystal gasket is a nylon gasket, Heidel gasket, and that's usually the first one to go.
Yeah, so definitely don't leave your watch just sitting
in the sun.
one spot
Yep.
directly. I mean, if you're at the beach all day, if you're in a
Yeah,
daylight situation,
A day
your
here,
watch
day there
is
is not gonna
usually
matter.
not facing directly on the
Right.
sun.
Yep.
So let's keep it moving. Let's talk about season 2 a little bit. We're gonna add a new member to the squad
rumor
here.
that. Yeah,
Josh
rumors today.
Thanos is gonna pop his head in, and he's gonna be hanging up. We've been definitely looking at all your feedback and criticism, guys. Keep commenting, keep giving us ideas. Tell us what you want to hear, and we'll definitely make it happen for you. The shows will definitely be a little bit more longer. I think we stayed around 5 or 6 minutes this season. We're gonna stretch it maybe 8 to 10, depending on the topic. A lot of cool topics where we're always throwing around. It will be a little bit more in depth, a little more sophisticated. We're gonna take a little more time, fleshing out the topics a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think for the viewers, it'll give you a little bit more to sit down and feast on in terms of information, and it won't be crazy technical by the book. It'll still be the organic thing that we've created, but I think we'll just make it a little more lengthy, and that way we don't have to kind of squeeze things in. More bloopers. That's all.
We're gonna be ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we're also going to talk not so much, and I won't touch too much on what we're going to get into, but it's going to be watch-related stuff. So sort of the business side as well, which I think people find fascinating. I know my customers are finding our business more fascinating. Every time I take a phone call from certain guys, they're like, I can't believe I see you guys in the this, that, and the other. So it's gonna be fun. It's fun to talk about some of the topics that are coming up in season 2.
And I think it'll definitely be a bigger and better show. And definitely business side. What got me into watches, honestly, was like the business. Because, I grew up from a family, everybody's a business person. I kind of fell into watches as a side job in between film school. I was just so interested, like a brand like Patek Philippe, somebody spent $100,000 on a watch. Like, why?
Yep.
I don't understand it, but then like when you dig in and you realize, the heritage of that brand, and like even somebody like, forget the heritage, you take somebody like Terry Stern, who has been with the company since his birth, has worked every job in that facility. And to me, as a business person, very much so like JCB, especially in early years, has a pulse on his collectors.
Yep.
He knows what they want. Look at the 5524, the Pilot's watches that came out. Everybody's like, oh, it's big, it's ugly. But when you saw it, you were like, I get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw that watch in the Islands of Cannes. One of the guys on there was selling it, and I was in the sunlight, and I was like, will I like this watch? And we opened it up, and I was like, this is a gorgeous watch. And I understand why, even though it's a pilot's watch, some people might think, oh, it looks like a Zenith, but when you put that on your wrist, it just, everything made sense. So like definitely, I think a lot of people like to get a little bit more of the business side, and next season we're definitely gonna dig in, you know.
Yeah, we got some good topics picked out.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be very, very fun. It's gonna be in September, I think early September, if I'm right.
We're
gonna start
talking
shooting
early
it pretty-
September for the season air.
Yeah, we're gonna have a different setting, but I heard rumor the chairs are gonna be back.
Yes.
Yes.
So for the fans of the chair,
If I don't steal it, you know, so I've been looking. You know.
chair will be there. The setting
It's
will
a
be
very
there.
nice chair. I think we all kind of want to fall asleep in that chair.
I think we all can't fall asleep in that chair.
All right, let's see. We have a couple more questions here in the live chat. Let's see what we got here. Back to diving. Would you take a 15-400 swimming?
I wouldn't. I'm
Very
telling
light,
you.
very light swimming.
Yeah. Again, I talked about the swimming. We test watches two ways. When we dry test them, we test them under vacuum and we test them under pressure. The vacuum tries to pull the watch apart, and we're going to try to demonstrate this more, I think, in the next season. But it tries to pull that watch apart, and it's not because we're going out in outer space though. It's because when you're swimming,
Right.
you have your backstroke.
Yep.
And your backstroke, as soon as you cross here, you're in a negative pressure. If there's any leaks in that watch, it's going to suck water in.
Yeah.
And we've had watches come in that have fish in them. You know,
Right.
it's just we had one last week.
Pour it
You know,
out.
it literally pouring water out of a watch.
Right.
So, would I swim in? No.
Yeah.
No.
It's just not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk. It really isn't. But you know,
I mean, but also to each your own. There is that guy. I always forget his Instagram tag, and he goes swimming with meals and tourbillons and everything.
there are guys that
and
do
like,
that.
you know,
I
but
wouldn't
like,
recommend it. But hey, listen, if you got the scratch and you're willing to
Yeah,
jump in a pool
Exactly.
and
And
take
the
the
other
risk.
side to that particular guy is like he's like a watchmaker size designer. So like while he is swimming, doing all this thing, he's probably somebody who has so many connections. If something were to go wrong, he can immediately get it expedited. Not like us who'd have to wait, 9 months for Patek. Please wipe off that corrosion there.
One of the things you mentioned about that too, when you talk about taking the corrosion out, a lot of times the brands now, and I know FP Journe is one of them, with the Karat Gold bridges or the ruthenium bridges, where if there's any scratches whatsoever, they replace the bridge. So you're gonna get your watch back,
Yeah,
and
brand new.
it's gonna be brand new.
Brand new, right.
You're gonna pay for it, but it's gonna be brand new.
Weber fan 123 says we should talk a bit more about Kari Voutilainen. I definitely think we'll be doing a lot more independents out there. I think independents right now they're really, I don't know, to me carrying the industry in terms of just the vision.
Yep.
And seeing what collectors want and knowing their collector. The Lauren Ferrier collector is a little bit different than the Journe collector, who's a little bit different than the Voutilainen collector, who's a little bit different than the Resonance collector. So I think these nice small production brands, Euphor as well, who's like,
that's just a whole different league.
It's a whole different league. Smith as well. They're really getting to know their clients, and I think that's very important for a lot of these bigger brands. They kind of lost that love, and they forgot why. The whole thing about buying a watch in the first place is still emotional attachment. No matter how much you love it, the technological side of it or the aesthetics, you still at the end of the day, it's something that you're spending your hard-earned money on, and it's a memory, and it's something you might pass to your kid, or you might just have it for 4 months, but it's still something that you enjoy, and it's nice to see independents kind of hone in on that a little bit.
Right.
So I think next season we'll have some fun.
There's going to be some good topics, and those guys. And what's nice is the comments are coming in, the questions coming in, naming some. That's a good watchmaker to ask about. So
Exactly.
that's great. Yeah.
I don't know which was my favorite. It's the Ving 8 ISO.
Could be.
I'm saying it wrong. Darn it. It's one where you tell time in a very, very unique way. You guys will correct me in the chat. It's a Ving 8 ISO.
Not sure.
I believe. I'm not sure.
I do know that he did one piece. There was a guy on Instagram, and I don't know his handle. I think it was Independent Time. Just going to quickly, but he did a Detente Escapement Tourbillon, one of one.
Yeah.
That was as nice as a watch I've ever seen. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was a one-on-one piece, but it was a Detente Escapement Tourbillon.
That's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Because you can.
Right. Because you can, exactly. So
that's the whole thing.
but that's kind of going super technical there for
Right.
those who may not know, but that's a serious complication.
Yeah,
with
but
serious
that's the beauty of
excitement.
independents, and there are I can't think of any right now, but there are a lot of independents who are very, very small as well. We're like under 10,000. A lot of
tons of those. Tons of them.
crowdfunding situations
Yes.
as well, where you can get something created exactly for you
Yeah.
the way you want, with a couple different variations, and kind of support a watchmaker,
Right.
And then eventually, not everybody's blessed to be in a situation where you can pull all the resources together, because it does take a lot to produce a watch, especially if you're trying to do something that's not
Yep.
a Rolex sub
Right,
knockoff.
right,
You know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
So it takes a little bit. So definitely don't feel like you have to stay in the crazy dollar amounts.
Hey,
There's
listen,
a lot
resonance.
of great
I
watches.
mean, resonance as a watch, incredibly. I mean, it's unique to any other watch I've ever seen. I mean, it looks like a smartwatch, it's a mechanical watch. The dial, the bezel, I mean, the entire construction of the watch is completely unique to itself.
I couldn't. It took me, I don't know, 30 minutes to figure out how to wind and set
Yeah,
them.
I mean,
But once
it
you
does.
figure it out,
Once you
it's so
figure it out,
cool.
it's incredible. But yeah, I mean, if you're used to a traditional watch setup, it's not anything like it. It's pretty cool.
I know.
Yeah.
It's fun. Everyone that comes in, definitely we got to play
Yeah.
with it a little bit.
Yep, very cool.
All right, guys, I think that's pretty much it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this live episode. Before we go, though, we got to say, a big thank you to our production staff, the boy band here, the Watchbox Studios.
Yep.
They've
Back
turned
here.
those bloopers into some sort of show that you guys watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
So, we're very thankful for them. And, they one of these days we got to get them on the screen. They're a really good, talented group of guys. I want to thank them so much for making it happen. And thank you guys for viewing. Please keep commenting, follow us on Instagram. The more you interact, the more shows we get to do, the more we prove to the guys upstairs that you guys want to see us on. And
That's right.
you never know, we might end up in Switzerland one day. I'm still trying to get to Basel out there. We're still trying to make things happen. That GoFundMe might pop. It might rear its head back up one more time. But that's a Classroom Live.
Yep.
This is Watchbox
All right.
Studios, and cheers.
Gentlemen,
Cheers.
it's been a pleasure.
Always.